Look at the modern state of Israel. It is a technological powerhouse, a heavily fortified nation, and a country with borders that have shifted more times in a century than most nations see in a millennium. But what if I told you that the very DNA of this state, its geography, its military doctrine, its politics, and its society, was fundamentally forged by its neighbors? When we study the history of the Middle East, we often hear about how the creation of Israel impacted the Arab world. But history is a two-way mirror. Today we are flipping the perspective. We are going to explore a complex, turbulent, and deeply intertwined history to answer one vital question. How did the actions, resistance, and responses of the Arab world shape the very existence and evolution of the State of Israel? To understand the present, we must rewind to the late 19th century. The land, then part of the Ottoman Empire, was predominantly populated by Arab Muslims and Christians, with a small ancient Jewish community. But Europe was changing. The rise of nationalism sparked the Zionist movement, a drive to establish a Jewish homeland in their ancestral land. As Jewish immigration, known as Aliyah, increased, they began purchasing land. Here is where the first profound Arab influence on the future Israeli state took root. The growing influx of European Jews triggered an awakening of Arab nationalism. The local Arab population recognized a demographic and economic shift and began to push back. This early Arab resistance forced the Zionist settlers to make a pivotal decision. They could no longer rely solely on outside empires for protection. Because of the growing friction with their Arab neighbors, Jewish communities began forming their own self-defense organizations, like Hashomer and later the Haganah. This is crucial. Long before Israel was a state, the pressure from the Arab population inadvertently forced the Jewish community to build the foundations of an independent military, a defining characteristic of the future Israeli nation. Following World War I, the British Empire took control of the region. They made conflicting promises, one to the Arabs for a unified independent state, and one to the Jewish people for a national home, via the famous Balfour Declaration of 1917. Tensions boiled over into the Arab Revolt of 1936. For 3 years, Palestinian Arabs launched a massive uprising against British rule and Jewish immigration. And this revolt changed the course of history in ways no one expected. First, the British response. Exhausted by the revolt and looming World War II, the British issued the White Paper of 1939, severely restricting Jewish immigration, right as Jews were trying to flee Nazi Europe. This Arab diplomatic and physical pressure forced a total paradigm shift in the Zionist movement. Realizing they could no longer trust the British, Jewish leaders decided they had to build a fully self-sufficient state within a state. Furthermore, during the Arab Revolt, the British armed and trained Jewish militias to help suppress the uprising. This meant that by the time the British left, the Arab Revolt had ironically helped the Jewish forces gain critical combat experience and military organization. In 1947, the United Nations proposed splitting the land into 2 states. The Jewish leadership accepted. The Arab leadership, viewing the partition as a theft of their land, rejected it. When Israel declared independence in May 1948, a coalition of neighboring Arab armies from Egypt, Syria, Transjordan, and Iraq invaded.
The land of Israel.
The 1948 war was the ultimate crucible. But how did the Arab intervention shape Israel? By invading, the Arab states turned what was supposed to be a peaceful transition into a fight for survival. This war accomplished two major things that defined Israel forever. First, Israel's victory allowed it to expand its borders significantly beyond the UN partition plan, securing more defensible terrain. Second, the war resulted in the tragic flight and expulsion of roughly 700,000 Palestinian Arabs, an event known in the Arab world as the Nakba, or catastrophe. This massive demographic shift dramatically altered the population of the new state of Israel, ensuring a large Jewish majority, while setting the stage for a refugee crisis that remains at the heart of the conflict today. For the next few decades, Israel was an island surrounded by hostile neighbors. The Arab boycott of Israel and the constant threat of war forced Israel into profound isolation. But isolation breeds innovation. Because Arab states refused to trade with them, Israel could not rely on regional commerce. They had to bypass their neighbors, developing deep maritime trade routes and eventually pivoting toward a high-tech, globalized economy. Militarily, the surprise attack by Egypt and Syria in the 1973 Yom Kippur War deeply traumatized the Israeli psyche. It shattered the illusion of invincibility and permanently ingrained a security-first mindset into Israeli culture. It led to universal conscription, a massive defense budget, and the creation of one of the world's most advanced military-industrial complexes, producing innovations like the Iron Dome. The constant pressure from the Arab world turned Israel into the military and technological fortress it is today. But the Arab influence isn't only about conflict, it's also about diplomacy. When Egyptian President Anwar Sadat took the unprecedented step of visiting Jerusalem in 1977, he single-handedly shattered the paradigm of total Arab rejection. The subsequent peace treaties with Egypt and later Jordan fundamentally reshaped Israel's strategic position, allowing it to focus inward rather than constantly looking over its borders. And we cannot forget the internal influence. Today, over 20% of Israel's population are Arab citizens. They are doctors, lawmakers, and artists. The Arabic language, Middle Eastern cuisine like falafel and hummus, and Levantine music have seamlessly woven themselves into the cultural fabric of modern Israel. The country is a Middle Eastern nation, indelibly marked by the culture of the very people it has been in conflict with. History is never a one-way street. The State of Israel was built by Zionist pioneers, yes. But its borders, its army, its high-tech economy, and its complex culture were equally forged by the responses, resistance, and actions of the Arab world. They are two peoples whose destinies have been locked together in a profound, tragic, and transformative dance. If you want to dive deeper into the forces that shape our modern world, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below. What historical event do you think had the biggest unexpected impact? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter of history.